Welcome back to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendy V, and I'm a social impact strategist here to help you build a successful and sustainable legacy of social change. In this week's episode, we're going to hear from a social entrepreneur who has been on a journey to change the world just like you. If you are interested in social entrepreneurship, this is the place for you. Let's jump right into this week's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This episode, I'm so super stoked about it because this is my buddy, Anthony Obas, and we are going to be talking about everything social entrepreneurship and making an impact. We realized how much we had in common when we talked the first time, and then we went, oh, you're just like me, but you're in a different place. Here we are together for this episode, and I'm super excited about introducing my audience to you. So I want to hear from you. Describe who you are and what you do and how you make an impact, and just introduce yourself to the community.
Well, thank you, Wendy. That was a beautiful introduction. I just love working with people. I love creating projects. I love it when people are chasing their passion and they're just not, hindered down by any obstacles. And, it's kind of like one of my artists kind of says is, but they have a soul, like they have life in them, right? So who am I? I'm Anthony Obas, very charismatic, very, very determined. But I'm an artist coach. So I coach, musicians into finding, kind of a full-time, part-time path for their career. I do a lot of brand management. So I take on a lot of small businesses. Like you said, like we said before, right? We take on a couple of small businesses and we kind of help them stay sustainable, profitable through marketing strategies, financial reviews, just figuring out their general productions and operations and the whole branding, right? I do event curations. I'm a writer as well too. Again, I stepped into this game because, I didn't get, everybody always used to tell me to follow this kind of one lane to life. Right. And, they tell you to walk the way of life. You go to college, you do this, you do this, you do this. But it's like genuinely when things go wrong for you, how many of those people are going to say that that advice that they gave you was the right advice? Right. But seriously, no shade to
That's so
anybody.
true.
There's no shade to anybody, but like I've gotten advice from so many people that says you should apply here, you should do this, you should do that. You don't got this, that. And it's just like, well, is this really truly defining me? Is this truly a fit for me? Right. And, people tend to like, fit into what's normal and just, run what's normal instead of just simply like, hey, if this is what you're passionate about, what if you just keep grinding until you can get to your passion, right? And that's where I'm at right now. I am 5 years in, celebrating going on 6, right? So we got another half.
Yes.
We got another half a decade to go. But I can't say that I didn't have fun, but I can't say that I did have fun. You know what I mean? Like it's just up in the air, and that's the life of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and there's that ebb and flow, and you don't know what the process is going to include until you're in the process.
Right. And then the only time you have a chance to kind of sit down and reflect is like I usually reflect usually in December and August. So I usually delete my whole social media, go away for about a week. And like no one's kind of hearing from me. Unless you text me, that's when you hear from me. But I don't answer emails. December, same thing. I mean, I'm on social media, but I'm not really engaging with a lot of events. Like I'm stepping out, right? I'm zooming out to kind of reflect on what being present, right? So yeah.
I love that. And I think that that's great advice for people to step away in order to reflect on the progress. Because if you don't look back, one of the things in the podcast season one we talk about is how do you know when you're getting to your vision? Because it's
Right.
iterative. It's not like I'm at my vision. It's iterative. So you have to know when you're getting to the next step. So has there been a time when you did that reflection and you realized like, oh, I made some pretty good progress that I wasn't giving myself credit for?
Right. I mean, even like this past like couple weeks ago, I'm sitting there like looking at all the projects I've done, all the work ethic, and I'm looking like, God damn, I am way ahead of most people, right? Like I am way ahead of most people. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, like look at me. I'm proud of myself, right? But
Let
and
me
then
do a
guess what?
little dance over here for
Yeah,
myself.
I'm a little dance, and then I'm sitting here like, well, I don't even know what 2023 is gonna bring to me. I'm just like, I guess we go for another round, right? And but we go for another round of whatever the entrepreneurial thing is, and I just looked at it and I was just like, okay, this is dope. This is we got a good foundation, right? And I think 5 years we've established foundation. These next 5 years is about not it's about deleting the things that didn't make sense and just capitalizing on the things that did make sense, right? That's what happens when you have foundation. Like if when you have foundation, like it just helps. You have reference point. When you do so much, like you probably work with so many clients, you could tell yourself, okay, this is not the client that I want to, this is the not business that I want to do. And thank God I had that that kind of reflection period because now I'm like, okay, I know what I want. And also I got to deal with the bullshit, right? Like,
Exactly. To be real, you don't have to
I
because
don't
you get
have
to
to.
choose who you work with.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of what it is now. So I mean, like I said, I love it. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to offer you a term for that. It's called strategic abandonment.
Oh, I like that.
So
Listen,
now
yeah, I like that term,
you
strategic
take
abandonment.
it. I learned it from somebody. Take it.
Mhm.
Now, people call it divesting. Obviously, you can divest in a strategy that's no longer working for you. But I
Right.
like the idea of strategic abandonment because it's like, hey, I am choosing as part of my strategy to no longer do this thing that doesn't serve me. So
Right.
the
Yep.
reflection period allows you to see that. And like you're saying, that's typical project management, actually. It takes about 10 years to get a full fledged sustainable plan in action.
Right.
First 5 years is doing it and figuring out what's working, what's not working. The second 5 years is taking that data, refining your strategy, and moving forward to a
Mhm.
sustainable place. So, what you're describing is a strategic example
Strategic
of
abandonment. I like the term.
yes, it's a
I like
great,
the
it's a
term. I like
great
the
thing to
term.
know.
It's a
So,
great thing to know.
yeah, so I want to hear from you. How did you discover that this is your purpose to help others?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So back in the days, and just growing how I grew up, right? Like we grew up very immigrant family, my family, like, I'm the baby in the family, right? I'm the baby of the family, immigrant family. And right, it's tough when you have like when you kind of I don't want to I guess I'm the first generation in a sense, right? I would be the first generation, right? But when I'm in with me, my brother, and my sister, when we're in that realm, we are like the first generation of kids that went to college, that got the career jobs that we want to. And we didn't have parents that really helped us, you know what I mean? And I already knew how that works, right? Like when you don't have your family kind of having the tools or knowledge to help, it's like, okay, cool. Like you kind of have to do it. You kind of have to do it on your own with the resource that you have, right? And for me, I was just like, there's a lot of people that definitely has the same commonality, right? I always have a good heart and I'm always looking to help people. Like I'm always looking to push myself to help people. But the real passion to aid people into more importantly, finding their passion into turning into a career, right? Really came with the idea of rejection. So multiple rejections from certain job opportunities. Second was the politics. You know what I mean? Like and I gotta
I
be real.
do unfortunately know what you mean.
You know, you gotta play the politics. And I'm not a political person, right? Like I'm not the situation of shaking hands constantly. Well, these days I'm definitely not trying to shake hands with a lot of people. But, but
Let's be real. Don't
but
reach out for Anthony's hand.
yeah, please, please, but like I have to, you're gonna have to like shake hands with people, kind of be friendly, buddy, just to get a little leverage. And I'm like, that's not fair. That's not fair for people that generally have a passion. They may not have the skills, but if they have the passion, like listen, like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. You know what I mean? That's one of my favorite quotes to the day. So when I discovered that, when those denials, those rejections came to me, I'm like, I can't wait for nobody, right? I can't wait for nobody. Like, if you ain't gonna help me, I gotta help myself and I gotta help my people as well too. So that's
But
that,
do you think
that's
some of that comes from that, like you were saying, being the first in your family, first gen sort of mentality of like, essentially knowing that you need to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and
yeah,
make something happen for yourself because ain't nobody
yeah.
coming to rescue
Ain't
you.
nobody coming to rescue you. I mean, like, I'd be honest with you, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, they're just hustlers. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like no one's coming to come, no one's that's nobody's gonna throw a bunch of money saving down on you. That's not happening like that. Like that's just not how life works, right? And You can ask for the handouts all the time, but how long do you keep asking for help, help, help until you get the help that you want to get, right? And I think that you're right. It definitely came from them, and I'm always happy that it came from there's other people that just like give me the handouts, and they get the handouts, and that's not the lifestyle I want.
Yeah, or they don't get anything, right?
They
Because
don't
there
get any
sometimes isn't anything to hand out.
right. No, it's true.
So
It's true. It's true.
you gotta
It's
make it
true.
happen on your own. No, and I have the same I'm also first generation, gone to college, went to grad school, like, all of that stuff, but nobody helped me fill out the FAFSA. I was the
Oh,
one who then had to help other people fill it out after, right? Yeah, crying about that experience.
that is, don't even get. I when I filed, just backstory. When I did the whole college application, I didn't realize, you know, how all my schools were private, and to this day, I didn't even apply to any SUNY CUNY schools. I'm like, why did I apply to state schools? Like,
The things you would do differently.
yeah, the things that I would do differently. I'm like, why would I? I was like, you know what? I was blessed and fortunate with Syracuse, but like, just thinking about, and now anytime I talk to people, kids that are going into college, I'm like, listen, go to a college that has a lot of resources that's cheap because no way you can come out there being behind 5 steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially if you don't have independently wealthy parents who are gonna pay for your
Right.
private
Okay.
education
Yeah.
for you.
Let's put it like that. Let's put it very bold and clear. Like if your parents are making over 6 figures, like college is going to be a very struggle for you. You
Yeah,
know.
even if they haven't saved for your college education, it's gonna be a struggle for them while they're trying to live and pay for your
Right.
college. So it's all around a struggle if you're not already hooked up. But that's why
Right.
it's cool now people like us who are exploring entrepreneurship, we have the opportunity to build that generational wealth for us and for the people who come after us. So,
Right.
you're unlocking that for other people, which is awesome. Do you want to talk about like how you help people, structure their mindset right to to get out of that victim sort of mentality,
Oh,
survive mentality into the thriving mentality? Like what are your tricks?
so so for me personally, I was in that model. You know what I mean? Because you have, and I always say like it comes, and I don't want to say it's generational trauma. I don't want to say that because it's not. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like up there.
I mean, that might be in there, but there's probably more to it.
It's like more to. I'm not a whole psychologist and everything like that, but when your parents are only known to survive, right? And the people around you, the community is only known to just survive, right? You all every day you work, you work, you work, you work, you work just to survive because you're planning for the future. You're planning for that, right? And for me, during 2020, right, I had a whole plan, right? I had a plan like I was going to do this, I was going to do that, and then do this. And I was like,
So
okay,
many
that
people
worked.
had a plan that year.
Everybody had a plan. But what happened? We couldn't control what happened. And it just restruck like that my mindset just got blown away because you couldn't get the job that you wanted. You couldn't finish off saying goodbye to your friends. Like there was a lot of things that happened in that time period that you had to reprogram your mindset, right? And I tell people this all the time, like it's a day by day battle. Like it's a day by day struggle. Like you can't sit here and tell me that 2024, you're going to get fired from your job if we're still in 2023, right? Like, let's be real, right? You can't, like, it's good to dream that, but let's be realistic and be present today, right? As entrepreneurs, we got to be present today and figure out the battles that we face today, right? Whether it's the battle of paying, like, you know how it goes, paying rent on time, or it's just like, paying a bill, or it's like, hey, I might not have to go, I can't go to brunch today. I'll see you in 3 weeks, but we can do something for free. Maybe go on, which is real fun. People don't want to go for a walk in the park. I like going for a walk. You know
Man,
what
I'm all about the free.
I'm all about the FES. I'm all about the free, like FREE. Like that's where I be. But it's like reprogramming your mind to understand like it's a day by day struggle. Like you're struggling, struggle is not an eternal thing, right? Like it's a temporary thing. Like if you understand that day by day that you're making your way out into being in a position of happiness, I think that's how creatives can start fighting their passion, right? Taking those small wins, taking those small wins and actually capitalizing on them, right? And that's how I've been reprogramming my creatives. I've told them multiple times, like, this is an uphill battle. Like every day, one day you're just gonna feel like you don't want to do this anymore. You're gonna quit. But I tell them all the time, look at what you've done, look at what you got today, right? Tomorrow you don't even know, right? Tomorrow you get an email that just changes your whole thing. You get a phone call that changes everything. You get a DM that changes everything. Look forward to tomorrow, but don't expect anything for tomorrow. You know what I mean? I think that's another thing to say. Like look forward for tomorrow, but don't expect anything for tomorrow.
I like that because you don't know what to expect. Like you were just saying with 2020, we all had a whole lot of expectations for blowing that
Right.
year up, and then we were like, "We're about to blow up the couch."
Yeah, we about to blow. Listen, like, I was on my bed. I was watching TV. I was like, I have never felt so much enjoyment right now. Even today, like, I can't even lie. Like, I've watched more Netflix shows now than I have ever done before. I was like,
I
what?
quit paying for cable because of the pandemic. I was just like,
Yes.
"Yo, cut the money, entrepreneurship, watch Netflix, done." I don't even think
Watch it.
I'm still out. The truth be told, I'm on my mom's account.
Yeah,
I ain't even gonna hustle here. And talk about the free. Thanks, mom, for my Netflix because I use that joint
yeah.
every day.
I am not gonna lie to you. I be using a punch stream. I be watching movies all the time because there's movies I haven't watched. So I'm like dying laughing. I'm like, why have I not had time to just watch movies? And to be honest with you, like those are ways to like get away from the lifestyle, right? Like diving yourself into like painting or diving yourself into watching movies. Like I get totally lost in watching. Not to say I'm procrastinating, but you need those things to reset your mindset to jump right back into it. You know what I mean?
And let's have that conversation about the procrastination line because that is
Right.
a fine line with entrepreneurs. You can choose to do whatever you want all day.
Oh, yeah, because you got the time.
You got the time, but if you don't have a plan on how you're gonna execute your business, you might find yourself watching Netflix instead of doing your business.
Right, exactly. Or, I mean, for me, I'm good at multitasking, but I be honest with you, the only thing why I have the TV on is to like, I'll be typing and be like, oh, that happened. And I'm right back into it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, you
I,
must have the same learning style I do where you need auditory stimulation as you work.
yes, I do. So I listen to music all the time when I'm working. So I'm like, da 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 da. Da, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
And it'll wait a
cool.
half hour and you're like, "Oh, that's still on."
Yeah, and I
You
didn't
know?
realize it. And then sometimes I have to double back on the episode because it was like, I'm watching my drama show. So I'm like, oh, this is getting
You're like,
this
"Oh,
has
I
got
was supposed to
spicy.
pay attention to that. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, but I'm also supposed to be working. Hold
right.
on."
Hold on. So,
Yeah.
but back
Uh,
to this procrastination thing, right? Like for me, like I know that I have, and one thing about being an entrepreneur that beats anything, it's having flexibility, right? Having that flexibility of time. You can work 12 hours hard today, and tomorrow you work 0 hours. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the beauty of it. But time management is key because it's just like you can't sit here and waste time because time is of the essence, right? Time is of the essence, and you're on a ticking clock because some today this is how easy it is today that you can have all this time. Tomorrow you can have no time and you can be left with zero money, right? So again, like every time you take it, it's true. It's so
no
true.
time, 0 money, that's not good.
No time. Yeah, exactly. Like no time, zero money. Like time, like again, like when we talk about financial freedom, right? For me as like, I think financial freedom is having the flexibility to make your own money when you can, right? But it's the situation is you need to prioritize it. Everybody still got bills. You still got bills. So unless you made triple or quadruple that amount of money in that month, then you could take off on the next month, right? But if you haven't done that, then every minute you have to do something. Like you got to be active. You know what I mean? Like, no saying that you can't take breaks, but opportunity. And my thing is like opportunities is always there for you. You know what I mean? There's people always looking on LinkedIn. Like yeah, earlier we were talking about that earlier with you. It's like I just got new clients. I don't know. I don't know what to do, but that's what you want. You want to have all these opportunities lined up, and you could take the time and say, I want this. I don't want this. Right? Procrastination does kill business if you don't have it, like you don't have a plan or vision, right? And time, and you got to have time management. You just got to have it.
And that's what working with a coach or working with someone like you and I does is it helps you refine some of those skills. So if you find yourself procrastinating, there's an accountability buddy there being like, "Oh, but we had this goal." And then,
Right.
we're trying to work towards it. So how do you support your entrepreneurs in staying on track when you see like they might be moving a little bit towards the procrastination or off towards, whatever they were whatever distraction they have going on?
Well, I always say there's no breathing room for procrastination because for me, it's like they always see me on the go. So there's no way for me. And one, if you see me on the go, that means you should be inspired to go, right? That's one. Second thing is also the fact of I'm always communicating. I'm always on people's ass. You know what I mean? Like you gotta stay on people and you gotta hold people responsible for things, right? I give people certain assignments. Okay, you're doing this for this, and you give people hard deadlines, right? Like I like to give, hard deadlines. I'm like, okay, I'm responsible for this and this is due on this. While you are also responsible for doing this to do that. That way that when it comes down to it, we can hold each other responsible for it and say, okay, yes, this is what we did. This is what we did. How does this move on? Right. I will always say this. This one thing I've also learned is sometimes the time might not be right. You may have planned everything perfectly to the T, but then it's always about time. And I always mention this for events, right? Like you put everything into the marketing, everything into the budget, everything and then and it's just like you do the event and it snows. And you're like, I did not expect it to snow. Like
Unplanned circumstances out of your control.
out of your control. And what are you gonna do at that point? Like for me back in the days, I used to have a panic attack. I'm like, "Ah, and then I just be like so pissed off.
You
And
could
I
be in
just
the corner crying.
it's either that or I just be in a corner like this. And I just be like, oh, I just be hot. Like I'm
Just steaming by
just
yourself. Don't
screaming
talk
by
to
your
me.
I don't talk to me. I don't and usually what ends to cheer me up is a nice plate of food. And I just be like, okay, I'm a little bit back to normal.
Oh, so we
But
just gotta feed you to stop you from being a gremlin.
yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Food will always make me
All
happy.
right, y'all. If you're listening to this episode and you see him with the face, you need to just get some good food, preferably some good Haitian food over there real
Yes,
quick.
yes, yes, yes. Oh man, and that's what's gonna make me happy, And um, but yeah, like I was saying to you about that, it's just like that's how you kind of stop people from procrastinating. You got to set hard deadlines. You got to be constantly communicating. Communication has to be key on both sides, right? Hard deadlines, keep showing people responsibilities, right? I like giving people like Asana is a good platform to use, right? Where you and the other person can just delegate tasks, right? People have Google calendars, right? And, on Microsoft Teams, they can at least, I think Microsoft Team has like the task thing and you can give everybody tasks and assign it based on emails, right? That is a good way of project management and prohibiting procrastination. So by the time the deadline does come, now you can feel the full wrath, right? At that point, you can feel the full wrath. You know what I mean? But even if it's not, sometimes I think it's like, again, sometimes it might not be the right time, right? Like things happen, right? But to be honest with you, it's like sometimes you plan so well and the timing might not be right. It may have come out and you can just recycle that plan again. People don't realize like just because it failed that one time doesn't mean you can't recycle it again and it won't hit the second.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about you said so much in here that I want to dig into, but I want to
Yes.
dig more into the project management aspect of this because, when you're a solopreneur, especially starting out, you're the project manager, you're the janitor, you're the CFO, you're the CEO, you're that. So, with that in mind, we could talk about all that garbage, but we also, what I was thinking, could talk about how do you stay on task with your project when you're trying to perform all those other things with those other hats that you may not be used to doing all that other stuff because you were working for somebody who had somebody else hired to be the janitor.
Right. And honestly, I've learned to either ask for help. Like, Lord have mercy, like ask for help. Like I'm literally talking to my DJ and I'm like, he's like, did you set up the link? And I'm like, everything, I set up everything except the description. And he was like, he's like, oh, did you need me help to write the description? And I'm like, yes, please help the description. Like, please help the description. Cause I am like, I got this lined up. You know what I mean? Like definitely call for help, right? Because there's definitely people that can definitely help, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Second thing is like, keep it a book with people and just genuinely say like, hey, I appreciate you with everything you do. I appreciate you reaching out to me as a person, right? I'm not going to be able to do this to the full capability of my capacity. I found out that people respect that so much, or literally say to people is, I'm busy, but whatever time I can do, I will try my best. You know what I mean? Like, the
Setting
trying
expectations.
like, yeah, cutting expectations. Like, if you expect me to deliver 100%, that's not going to happen because I have other clients that are in high priority than you are. Right. And a lot of people kind of find that very because they'd be like, oh, I should be the high priority. Well, in this reality of the world, it's like,
And you may be next week, but this week you're
this week they're not. And to be honest with you, like, and this might sound very selfish and everything to be, but like, if we're talking about high priority, I am the high priority, right? Like my business doesn't thrive without me putting me first. You know what I mean? Like I have to get my brand image right. I have to be constantly networking with people. I have to make sure that whoever the strategies I'm doing, the financial reviews is accurate. Like the business thrives on me first, right? So if I'm not right, how can I sit here and invest my time into other people, right? And not to be selfish, but it is true though, right? Because everybody's like, I don't want to say self driven, but everybody is the biggest investment is you at that point, right? And it's like, how can you sit here and tell, me that I should put you as a high priority when first of all, you already like putting me as the higher investment. Like you should have been the high investment. Like with or without me, you still got to get it done. You still got to get it done. Like you still got to do it.
And
You know,
everybody is responsible for their own wellness, right? So
everybody. Mhm.
if you don't pay attention to your wellness, nobody else is gonna do it for
No
you.
one's you and all these, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think clients are really considering people's wellness, right? I don't think that they
Mm,
just it's more about, okay, here's the task, here's this, get it done, right? And it's more
mhm.
about like, yo, how are you doing in the process of you getting that task done, right?
Yeah.
That's why another thing I think project management, we need to do check-ins. Like, how are you doing in terms of getting the task done, right? Like, let's check in. Sometimes I don't check in because I basically have a good balance. So I plan out my week and I say, okay, this week, this day, I'm focusing on this specific client. I'm focusing on this specific task. All the other days, it's that everybody has a dedicated day. Everybody has a dedicated time. That if that is the time I can allocate, that is the time that I allocate. Because in between that, I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to go to the gym. And then I also have a social life that I have to balance. Right. And let's say I cut off my social life, but I got to balance that. If I'm constantly talking to other people, and then when I want to talk to people personally, like my social battery is going to die out at some point. Right. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Oh my god, you only have so much fuel for you to
I
do
only
all of those things.
I only have so much fuel for me. So it's like when I choose me, it's like it becomes a problem, right? But when I choose me, everybody just blows up in flame. But when I choose other people, it's perfectly fine, right? And it becomes, you know what I mean? Like it's
It's, like,
again, like
sad but true, yes.
it's very true. It's sad, but it's true. So, you know, um, but yeah, when it comes to project management, checking in, like allocating time properly, right? Like, and allocating how much, again, like I strategically figure out how much time I'm going to need on a specific project, right? Like if I'm doing a PR campaign, right? Like, first of all, I probably need like about 10 to 20 hours of just researching who am I going to reach out to? Once those 10 to 20 hours is up, I'm on to the next phase, right? I did all that I can for the 20 hours, right? And then next phase is reaching out to those people. I know that there's a cheaper way of doing it without having to like go through the whole process, right? Like a lot of people send generic emails, right? Which is technically sometimes the case, right? Like I'll be honest with you, I copy and paste a lot of my PR thing, right? Like it's the same body. I just change it to hey, blah blah blah, or good afternoon, or da 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 da. You know what I mean? But it's the same. The body's still the same, right? Um,
But that's
but
good because it's consistency in the messaging that
it's
that
consistent. Yeah,
helps you out in the long run.
it does. It does. I mean, like I can't like again, like when it comes to PR, like I'm reaching out to about 100 plus people per day, like to get them to notice you, right? The rule is you gotta reach out to 1,000 people just to get that one deal, right? And it's just like that's tiring. Like that is tiring.
Yeah, if you don't have 1,000 people following you every minute, I don't
Then
see very many behind you right now, but
what? Where?
where are these 1,000 people at? You gotta go find them online.
You gotta go find them online. You
Find
gotta
them in
constantly
person.
find them in person. You gotta keep pitching. You gotta keep doing like it's like, come on, like let's be real. Let's be real. Like we all are trying to get our name out there. We're all trying to do that, but it's just like I, take your time, allocate your time. Like time is crucial. Time is crucial.
No, I work with a lot of my clients who don't have that wellness balance and they don't have the practice of time blocking like you're talking about. And those are two crucial things that we work on. I'm like, man, if I see you coming up late with things or not showing up to calls or whatever, we're going to
Ooh,
have to pause and look at like what's going on with the balance of your life because
yeah,
probably something is
yeah.
off balance on the personal side that's preventing you from getting to these goals on the professional side.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like, and another thing is you never want to be in a position where people are like, I'm choosing. We're constantly choosing, right? Like you don't want to be in a position where you choose. Like wellness should be the first of priorities, then it should be this, right? But then it should be like, okay, am I allocating enough time, or is there something in my wellness that I need to change in order for me to really give this, the effort that it needs to give, right? And like a lot of people don't realize that, right? Maybe it's your sleep pattern. Like for me, like one of the biggest problems with my wellness is I didn't get enough sleep. Like,
I am
like
super guilty of that. Super
like,
guilty.
I'm still trying to find a balance in that. But like, like some days I go to sleep like at 10 o'clock and I get up at 6 a.m. and I'm like, wow, I feel great. I feel good. I feel motivated. And those are the best times. You know what I mean? But I can't sometimes catch myself falling asleep at like 10 o'clock. So I'm like, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to schedule. And what I do sometimes is I have all my emails scheduled for the next day. And then I sleep in until like, 9 o'clock, right? Like, and I'm like, okay, then my morning is complete. I can focus on the
And
afternoon,
everybody thinks
right?
you woke up at 6 a.m. that day because they got an email
Everybody,
from you at
well,
6 a.m. See the hacks we give on this podcast, y'all.
that's a jam. It's a beauty because it's like I'm like, why do I gotta wake up early in the morning to send emails? Like I cannot focus in them. First of all, I am not a morning person like that. So it's like my brain takes a little bit. It takes a long time for it to realize like it's the morning, right? It's the morning, right? And I think morning is like my best quietest time. Nighttime, oh wow, I'm up active, like, and that's because I'm in the nightlife scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm up, I'm active, I'm ready to go. But like mornings, I'm like, oh, people are talking, people are sending this, you know what I mean? So I schedule all my emails in the nighttime by 9:05. I literally schedule at 9:05 a.m. You will receive the email, and your responses will read. And again, another thing also, you don't need to respond to everything at that moment. If it's, you know what I mean, like take your time, process the information, figure out what you need to draft up, and then send it out. I've learned that another thing about tasks like project management. Everything doesn't need an urgent response because then you're gonna catch yourself in a full circle.
Yeah, and I love that because now with the entrepreneurship in not having a manager or somebody who's like, "This is a really important email. Why didn't you answer it in 5 seconds?" And you're like, "Oh, I just got it. I haven't even read it yet." Like, "What?"
Yeah, I haven't even read it. Like,
Yeah.
people just don't realize. They be like, "Oh, you didn't follow up, da 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 da." da," But it's just like, first of all, like I didn't even get a chance to process what has been said, and then on top of that, I didn't even strategize how to respond back. Like, there's a strategy in like wording. There's a strategy in talking to people, right? Like, there's a strategy in figuring that those things out. So it's like, give me a few days to really process those things. Now, if it's an opportunity that you can't get again, of course, you're gonna sense that with an urgency, but that comes with the prioritizing, right? Like everything comes with a priority, right? And you need to figure out how to prioritize responses, but also strategize, responses as well too. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and it's hard when you have, like you said, multiple clients. So when people are sending you stuff and you're like, "Okay, okay, okay," I had to set expectations with people of like, "I'll get back to you in a day, maybe 2."
and
Like,
maybe two a day and a two, like give
yeah.
me, and you got to be, and that's the thing, keep the clarity, right? You got to be clear, you got to be very clear, and I'll be honest with you, very bold sometimes. You know what I mean? Like very bold, and just be like, hey, I didn't fucking do this. I'll do it 2 days. Just relax, like just calm down.
Yeah,
You know
or
what I
I
mean?
messed this up and I'm not afraid to tell you I messed it up.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm not afraid to tell people I messed up, right? And I think there's another thing that I've learned from project management. It's not every opportunity is an opportunity, right? So people will hype up this big opportunity because it's this big platform, this big name and whatever. I look at it as like, okay, cool. I see that as a person. I see that platform, but that doesn't mean that I have to urgently respond because of that. 'Cause everybody's like, if I don't get the opportunity now, someone else will probably get the opportunity because they're reaching out to somebody else. And I get that. But it's also the fact of, did you take your time to process what the email was? Right. And did you actually think of yourself as does this require an urgent response? Does this require a thing? Again, everybody has this weird opportunity cost. And I'm like, another opportunity will open. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
That's
Like,
not the last opportunity that's gonna come your way.
right, exactly. Like, this is the do or die. This is gonna pay everything. And I'm just like,
And you're never gonna
get
have to worry
out.
about bills again.
Right, exactly, right, like,
That's
like, what?
funny. Yeah, and I think this is cool information for people because sometimes you're framing your thought process as an entrepreneur in the way that your previous career experiences lived.
Oh,
And you don't have to operate with those parameters anymore.
Oh,
I
you
had
got
the
it.
worst parameters. I was in the government, so we had all the
Oh,
parameter, like,
oh,
every you couldn't order a pencil without there being some sort of rule, right? So now I'm completely free to do everything. Sometimes I, like, lose myself, and I'm like, "What am I doing here?"
yeah.
So I love that
I love
stick to
it.
the project management basics.
Right. These are the most basic stuff, but it's just like just keeping them. And the thing is, you're not. I always think of this. I like this when it comes to project management and being an entrepreneur. This is the thing that always pisses me off: micromanaging and like micromanaging. It's like it's just a weird like. Oh, it's a weird form of passive aggressiveness. It's just it's very. And let me be
It's
honest
so
with you,
true.
it's so passive aggressive when people are micromanaging you while you're doing management. Cause it's just like, I know what the project task is. If I reach out to you, I will ask you for the help. I assume that you understand that if I need the help. Right. It's not like I'm messing, like it'll be different if micromanaging someone is the idea of A, they're starting, or B, they messed up on previous projects. You have to put you in them together. That's micromanaging. But if someone's completing the task, getting things done, where is the point of you micromanaging? Now you just want to be an asshole, right? You know what I mean?
Now you're just in
Um,
here for no reason.
for no freaking reason, for no
Yeah.
reason. And it's just like, like again, micromanaging all about is again, I find it a very form of passive aggressive and just generally saying to someone like, you need help. Why did you ask for help? Da 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 da. Right? Like it's just like, oh, can you da da da? It's just like, oh. So
And
in
I love Oh, go ahead.
yeah, but in project management, I think there's that big like cutoff on micro. Like you are the manager, right? And you can manage. You have to be able to understand what you can and can't manage, right? Like there's no one that's trying to micromanage you. Be like, hey, did you do this? Why didn't
"Hey,
you do
Anthony,
this?
that was due 15 minutes ago."
That was due 15 minutes ago, and I'm just like, it's only 15 minutes, but okay, like relax. You know what I mean? But pacing, right? So.
Yeah, and you said something really cool in there, I didn't wanna gloss over it, that you have the power to choose if this is the right opportunity for you. So
Right.
how do you like, when an opportunity comes to you, how do you judge if it's the right one?
Okay, so this is how I judge it. So that is a very great question. So when an opportunity comes to me, the last thing I take and consider, the last thing you should start off by thinking about is financials. Do not take it because of money. Like just you have to really program yourself and say, I will get something better. Like I think that is something like if it's money that you take, if money is your first criteria of judging, then that is terrible. Then no, right? Because you're gonna end up, yeah, you're just gonna end up in a bad loophole, right? So that's the last thing I judge, right? First thing I think of product and service differentiation, right? Like, how is this client different from anybody else that's in the field, right? So, for me is I'm working with this barbershop out of is it Tacoma? No, Vancouver, Washington, right? And they focus on CBD aftershave and, kind of enhancing oh my God, it's amazing.
That's really
Um,
cool. Okay.
right. Shout outs to my boy Hanif. And basically,
Yes, shout outs
shout
for
outs, yeah,
sure.
I gotta give a shout outs to him. And I was recommended from my homeboy Tope. And we've always been in communication and stuff like that. And I've always knew Hanif. So when he dropped his line, the Great Shape Supply, Times's Great Shape Supply told me about this CBD aftershave. I'm like, okay, let me get a sample product of the aftershave. Oh my God. It had aloe vera in it. It had it had the chamomile or something in there. Like the ingredients were so fresh and I smelled them. I'm like, oh my God. Like if you put a little aftershave on, you're gonna feel good. You're gonna smell good and feel good. Cause I know I don't have that much facial hair clearly. But I know a lot of other people that have aftershave when they shave, they get a lot of bumps on their razors. So like the aftershave cooling does the cooling down, so you don't have those bumps when you're constantly moving around, as you know. So when I found that out, I'm like, yo, this is a problem that solves a solution, and here's the solution. Like this is a good entrepreneurial thing, And I was like, this is it. I want to take that because second thing is also it stepped me out of my normal thing. Like I was so used to doing music project management. Now I'm doing grooming project management. And when I found out there's like, you could do so much where you can have people model for it. You can have it placed in barbershops. You can have it placed in retail stores. When I'm doing all this research and digging into it, I'm like, I'm having fun with this. I like that like I'm fun. And before I even fully accept it, I'm already gearing myself ready to take on the project. So I'm researching the grooming industry. I'm researching this. I'm like, yo, this is it. I want to do it. So then after that, then I just proposed the money. You said, bet, be in there. You know what I mean? And now, with 2 months of doing the PR gram, like we've been getting responses. Even somebody responded when they seen the full details of everything. They was like, this is amazing. This is going to solve my problem. I get a lot of bumps when I have to. And I'm like, I take that. That's a testimonial. That is a true reaffirming that your product is definitely needed. That the PR that we're doing, that we're constantly reaching out to, it is affirmative. Right. So, yeah. And that's how I take it on. I think again, product service differentiation. Think about the research and space that it's in, right? Like whether it be the company, whether it be the person, think about what,
Mm.
competitors. I think a lot of people forget about industry research. And then the very last thing is the money, right? Like you should not be thinking like you should not be trying to go with, oh, this is like $3,000 and I need that $3,000 and I'm gonna just go for it. Like what are the other things that are underlying? How much of the time is going to take of you? How much work is going to take of you? Is this product or service going to benefit you? Is this going to be something that's going to really, that you truly believe in, right? Like, I think there's another part of that is like, do you truly believe in what the person is doing as a work? Like, if
Or
you
is this
will,
just like, it sounds cool, but I'll help you, but I'm not excited about it?
I'm not really excited about. I generally get excited when I work with people. Like, I do have a lot of projects that I'm working on, but all the projects I'm working on, there's a lot of excitement to it. There's a lot of excitement to it. So, that's just be me being real.
Yeah, I go through the process where I think about, how much impact is this entrepreneur gonna make? And
Yes, yes.
and then, are they ready, willing, and able to bump to that level of scaling to get the impact that they want? Because people have big visions and they're like, "I wanna help all these kids in Uganda," and I'm like, "Okay, great, but I used to live in Uganda, so let's talk about how difficult it is project in Africa when you're in America." You know?
Right. Let's talk about that.
Are you ready for a big up in the middle of the night? Because 'Cause they're 8 hours, 10 hours, like, you need to figure this out, and so sometimes the entrepreneur themselves isn't ready in the place for the help. So when you encounter somebody like
Yeah.
that, can you give us a
Mhm.
time, like, an insight into when this
Mhm.
happened to you and how you navigated it?
Oh my God. So there was an artist, right? He reached out to me. He's like, oh, I'm looking for management. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was like, okay, let's talk about the project and whatever. So then I said to him, I was like, so where's the music? I haven't started the music. I said, wait, what? I started, even you look at your face, I'm like, wait, what? It's like, so I'm like, how do you expect
"Excuse
me to?
me?"
And it just hit me. And then just like, wait, so you want someone to manage you, but there's no product? There's no music. Like, so I was already like, all right. Like, and so he's like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to, and I'm like, you want, but did you do? Like, you want, but did you do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be an artist, but then this is like, I asked you for the music. You're like, it's not there. I'm working on my first song. And I'm like, come back to me when you got the first song. Right. So then, and then I guess the person felt some type of way and the person never reached out to me. I ended up finding out that the person from another person that they said that I'm a dickhead, which I mean, I'm not wrong for what I did, but like maybe my approach was wrong. But like, I mean, to be honest with you, what am I managing? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, what am I managing if there's no product
It's
available?
so true.
Like, what am I managing? Like, we're just like at that point, we might as well just be friends and grab lunch at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was no point of like conversation. Like, I had to dead it very quickly because it is like,
And
again,
if you took money from him, like, since say you took it and you took money from him, he might have been unsatisfied with the service he got, and it wasn't your fault. He didn't have a product to sell.
yeah, I mean, man, but there are people like that, right? There are people that are very, and somebody used it yesterday when we was in middle conversation. Now I want to say predatorial, right? It's just like they just eat off of people, just eat. It's like because and I don't know what the term is, but they know how to play on people's wants,
And their
right? Uh,
fears.
and their fears. Yes, I think yeah, there you go their fears, right? It's like, okay, I know and this is seen a lot in the music industry. It's like, I have this big radio station, right? I have this big radio station. You pay me $800 and I will have your song spin. I will have your 800 spin. for most people, they like, oh, I want that. That's big. I'm gonna get my name out. I'll pay the $800. So you see that that's a want from people, right? Or it's and then the fear is you will never get this opportunity to be on this big radio station if you don't pay the $800. And it's sad. It's really, really sad to see how people really and people willing to pay for it, right? I mean, I studied behavior economics so much, but it's real. I have really taken consideration of this. It's like, why do people spend, right? And people sometimes spend because they're fearful of they're fearful that this opportunity might not come again, or they're fearful that this is the only time this is going to happen. Like and they, and then, and
But
when you,
marketing has been structured that way. Like,
it's smart. Yes. And it's structured like that.
the
Marketing is all,
scarcity is something that marketing pushes.
and it pushes that, right? Like it pushes that because it's just like, if you can play on that, you can then be able to make a sale. Like, and that's why this game is more about like mindset and just saying, yo, no, I'll get there when I get there. Right. Like I'll get there when I get there. Or like, you know what? I'm gonna know for a fact this $800 can be used for something else. I'm going, right? Marketing. And again, I studied marketing for 4 years in Syracuse, right? I still read books on marketing, right? Like The Tipping Point by Gladwell, like all these entrepreneurs, all these like big marketing people.
Man, I've gone
And
back to some old school books too
yeah, no, like,
to learn, like, the roots. So where did this
so
even come from?
where did this come from? And you start, and like some of them have come from war, some of them have come from like certain things. Like it's just interesting. Like some
The
of
Great Depression.
the
Came
Great
a lot from the
Depression.
Great
Oh my
Depression.
God. I didn't even like, and everybody was just like, and I realized how much hysteria, right? Like during that time period of like how you could play on people's hysteria to then be able to like capitalize on more money for yourself, right? Um, I mean, we just came, I don't know if I don't know what the situation, but even the pandemic situation, like people have learned how to capitalize over people's hysteria and pandemic just to make more money. And it's just like, wow, this is very interesting, right? Um, so
And
that's,
I think it's hard too to, as a consumer, differentiate between sometimes the people who are legit, like you and I telling you, like, "No, we'll work with you through the process." The process is gonna be organic and it's gonna progress when it needs to, but you want a shortcut that I can't guarantee you is going to happen or be there or work.
yeah, yeah,
So,
it's true.
that
It's
doesn't mean you
true.
can skip doing the work.
Yeah, you can't skip the process. Everybody wants to skip, and that's another thing I think. And it's scarcity and time too, right? We talked about that as a great point about scarcity of time. People think like, I'm not going to be able to live long. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be able to live long. So I got to do it now. And it's just like, what do you fear? What is the real fear there? Right? What is the real fear there? Right? Like, to be honest with you, I can generally think, like, if I die today, God forbid, like, I am happy with where I'm at right now. Like, I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy. I've done everything that I could. You know what I mean? Like, I wrote a book. I've traveled to London. I've traveled all around the States. You know what I mean? I've lived in DC. I did the life that it was presented for me to do. Like, so there's no fear. There's no fear of like, I gotta do everything like I did. It's like, what's that movie? What's her name? Queen
Which one?
Latifah did. It's like she had like 24 hours to live,
Oh,
and
yes,
she,
I know what you're talking about,
you
and she,
know,
like,
so
she wiles out.
she just goes crazy.
Yeah.
She went for the 24 hours, and she just starts doing all these things,
All the
and
things,
like,
and it's not even possible to do that many things in 24 hours. It's
yeah,
like,
crazy. So it's crazy, but like she just does all these things in 24 hours. And like for me, I just look at that movie as, like I said, I always look at movies and the like the reference point, right? Like, and I'm like, yo, why didn't you do this when the news of 24 hours didn't come up? Right? Like, why didn't you live your fullest? And that's basically what I got from that movie. Like, why didn't you live your fullest? Why did they have to take a news to be like, oh my God, da, 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 da. And now you're in fear and you got to do everything you got to do, right? Like you should be doing
yeah.
everything you want to live now, right?
Well, and especially if
Now.
you're living to build the legacy, right? If you're living to really to
Right.
build the legacy, this is kind of how I describe it to people, then you're going to get to where you get to, but you need to make sure that you're setting up that legacy while you have the health and the ability, mental cognition
Yeah.
ability to do so.
Mhm,
If
mhm.
something happens and suddenly you're, a vegetable, like your legacy is what it is right now.
It is what it is right
It's
now,
right this moment, right now.
and you can't change like, you can't change it, so, like, you gotta live your best life, you gotta live your best life, and the only way to live your best life is to say and, like, going back to this when we first started, that mindset of, "Yo, today is the day, and I'm gonna live the fullest for today." Like, tomorrow brings what? I don't know, but we'll see, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, who knows?
who knows? Who knows? Like yesterday, it was completely raining in New York. Today is completely sunny. Right? Yesterday, I was like, I don't even want to leave my house. And now today, I'm like, oh, I gotta get some sunlight. I gotta get some fresh air. You know what I mean? Like, so I love it.
Well,
I
a
love it.
sunny day in New York after a gloomy day in New York is like spring just came and like,
Yup.
you
And
know,
spring just came, and I'm like, wow. Like, I mean, yesterday I'm walking in the middle of the street, and I'm like, I said, I was like, I see, and this, I felt so bad because there was a 5-year-old next to me. I'm like, it's fucking snowing in New York. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I just started saying, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a 5-year-old kid. I'm like, oh, ears.
yeah, earmuffs, earmuffs, sorry.
Earmuffs. Yeah. And I'm just like, earmuffs. And, but then it's just like that. Like, you don't know what to expect on
Yeah.
the day to day, you know? So,
Let's have that conversation about the cussing in your content because I think that this is something that I cuss like a sailor if you met me, like in real life, to be like that girl. But legit, one of the things that saved my life when I was traveling in Africa was cussing. I had to
wow.
cuss out a grown man who had me by the arm and was about to abduct me. And
Wow.
everybody around stopped in this taxi park and looked at him. And that was how he was like, what are you doing to this white lady? Why is she cussing you out? We don't cuss in Uganda. Why are we hearing these words right now? And
Wow. That's
they
crazy.
stopped and saved me. So to me, I'm like, live and say the way you're going to say. But now something's changed in our society about censorship where you can
Oh,
talk a little bit. So you're in the arts. So can you talk on this? Like, what is your
ooh,
perspective of all this?
well, and it goes back to this idea of, I'm going to say the 2 words, cancel culture. It's really what it is. You know what I mean? And,
You had to say
it
it.
I had to say it because it's like it's censorship and everybody's talking about like what should be said and what should be regulated to be said, right? Because everybody thinks they have a platform, right? Like everybody on the platform, they feel like they have to say they have an opinion, but no one's bringing up facts and to support that opinion in terms of what they are, right? So for me, cussing for me fully expressed it fully expressed how I feel. Like and sometimes it's reactionary, but that's just how I feel, right? Like if I'm like, fucking A, like you're fucking A, like you're a fucking asshole, right? Like I'm expressing anger. Like I'm fully expressing anger. Like, I'm fully expressing things. The only thing that you can't be fully expressing is hatred, right? You know what I mean? Let's keep it a stack, right? Like you can't sit here and be like, oh, I have a platform. I can express hate. Like, no, like that doesn't work like that, right? But if I feel a certain anger, if I feel like happy, I should be able to fully express I should be able to fully express, but it should not become at a detriment to other people. That's what it should be. And I think as a society, we should, be better at communicating how it hurts, right? How it hurts. Where's the pain point, right? Where is the pain point and why is it painful? Like, with censorship, I think there's that sensitivity, right? There's that sensitivity part where it's like, oh, censor all things bad, censor all things, that's not good. And it's just like, well, we're not really having those uncomfortable conversations now, right? We're not really kind of understanding, why is this person ignorant? Why is this something bad? Because there's an educational part to a lot of, cussing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's an educational
And
part to
also
it.
sort of cancels people's lived experience, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if you come
Yes.
from a certain area or certain neighborhood or certain place where that's normal, how you speak, that in your vernacular day to day, you're kind of canceling their ability to express themselves in a way that's normal for their experience.
Right, exactly. It's no, and you have to understand, and that's I think again, it's all back to the sensitivity thing, right? It's like you have to be able to understand, like, yo, I'm confused. Like, sometimes you can look at them like I'm confused. You know what I mean? Like I know this is such a big thing now. It's like when like Spanish people like pass and uses the N word, right? And
Oh,
some people be
yes.
like,
Can we have
like,
this discussion? Because I'm still
yeah,
confused. I get when my African American and Black friends start using the N word, I look at them and I'm like, I'm like this.
yeah.
What am I supposed to do during the headlights?
No, but it's like for me, it's like. So for me, it's like it's too that again. I'm not playing devil's advocate of like who should say it, who shouldn't say it. Like I shouldn't be that person. Like I've known people that are like very like clear, whatever that drops the N word like it's like crazy. You know what I mean? And I sit there. I'm like, so do you have any like Afro descendants? Do you have like are you black? Like I get this. I get and it's a blurred line, and it's just like then it's just like I always like be like, so who gets the N word pass and who does? And like, and there's this new
I
thing
don't you
about
know, I don't know, but I think if you have experienced oppression and being a Black person, then you can use it.
right
If
and
you That's my rule. If you, because I have, like, 6% African DNA, but that doesn't mean that I've experienced anything like what it means to be Black or be African American and be
right
discriminated with race oppression and all those things. So, I don't think I get the pass, right? And I'm okay
right
with that.
right. And then I'm just like again these days I'm like, and for me it's like I disengage those conversations very quickly because it's just like I'm like, even me personally, I'm like, I'm like, what? I don't know what's the generic rubric. Like everybody has their own like rubric for things, right? Like what should be like, this should not be said, or like da da da. And I'm just like, and for me, I'm just like, is that person coming from like for me? I react if it's coming from a place of hate. You know what I mean? Or if it's a place of cultural appropriation. You know what I mean? Like I swear I gotta step in and be like, yeah, no, we gotta cut this out. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm just like, and it was just like, they that person grew up in this area that it's just like, so the people in that area was like, that's accepted. And then I'm like, it becomes so like all over
It's
the
so
freaking place.
confusing, and it
It's
is,
so confusing.
and then people are like, "No, you're not supposed to, and you're okay." Like, it's really confusing. So I usually am like, "Let's just not say."
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
just
Let's come to a consensus of like, yeah, let's just not say it and just keep it
the
pushing.
word
Like,
just has such a connotation with it. Like, let's just try and not say it
yeah,
in
like,
general. And if it comes out because that's your lived experience, okay, cool. I'm gonna not like freak out about it. But if you're like you said, there's something wrong here with you saying it, I am gonna look at you, not with a confused face, but with a
oh,
like
right. You
hella
know what I
suspect
mean?
face.
Right. You know what I mean? So I just, like I said, like those type of things, like even like me, like even as a man, like I'd be like using the B word, like bitch. You know what I mean? Like for me, like I use like, oh, that's my bitch, like that as like a very friendly term, but then it's like I could use the B word to be very like, very like demeaning and very like an asshole to a woman. It's just like then you look and then you look at me, and that's what I'm saying. Like I just be like, I'm not gonna just use the word and because everybody takes things differently, interpretation, right? And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick to my general words that I usually say. So it's fuck you, you're an asshole, and then and shit. I always got to use shit. Like, come on, shit.
I do, I do. And in my brand, I made it normal for me to cuss because I was just like, I can't, it's too much brain space for me to not go, oh shit, in the middle of something, right? That's
Yeah,
just my normal reaction. So you're going
and
to
and
hear me say that.
And the also thing is also I'm not in school anymore, right? And I think like this idea of vernacular being very proper and very Western is just like, no, I can't do it. Like I think there's when you could teach people how to speak slang, when you teach people how to speak a different language, you also teaching people another form of culture, right? Like I know for a fact whenever I go to Cali, I use folk show. You know what I mean? Like,
For
yeah,
sure.
show. You know what I mean? I use
I
folk
just said hella earlier, and that's a Kelly thing. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, so okay, you know what I mean? Like but that's part of the culture, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's slang, and you might again you don't want to be always reactionary, right? Like you want to be able to process and understand it. Like, is this part of someone's culture? Is this how someone like you have to be able because I think these days we're very reactionary, right? As a society, we're very reactionary to things instead of hold on, let me process what's going on, and then let me interpret what it is. You know what I mean? Like and again, we're always on a go, go, go. Like, like literally understand the process, then react, right? Like, or have the information. Like, I don't like again, me disengaging in conversation sometimes, it's not for me saying I don't like the conversation, but it's me just like, let me avoid reacting to the situation because I might be interpreting in this wrong way, or they might be interpreting the wrong way, right? Let me step back, ask questions, and then I'll offer my reaction in a more educated way, you know?
Yeah, and I
Um,
think as entrepreneurs, like you like you were saying before, you have the ability to take that space, right? To step back and
right.
say, I don't need to respond at this very moment. I can respond like when I have the right words for this, or
When I
I
have the
have
right words.
less emotion or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Like, I'll be honest with you, that has helped me so much, so many times in business, especially like these last 2 weeks, because I had a client literally just talking dirt behind my back. Like it was smiling in my face, like, hey, da 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 da. And then, my boss, literally came at me and I'm coming at my boss, but then I'm just like, wait, hold on. The common denominator were the people that literally just started this whole conversation. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So we just said to ourselves, we're not, so me, I apologize, he apologized. We were like, we're never gonna have this happen again. We figure out a strategy now. Now that way that no one can mess with us. You know what I mean? If anything, you just made us stronger.
So you might have defeated your purpose here, but
Exactly. You might have defeated your purpose. And again, but the thing is, in that thought process, I was like, oh, I was telling my colleague, I'm like, I was thinking about, I'm leaving. We was in the middle of conversation. I'm like, I'm leaving, da 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 da. And after that, I was like, you know what? Have this conversation, right? And I told him where he was wrong at, and then we communicated, and then it was like, oh, I see your point, and that I'm wrong for not hearing you out first. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm not always right, but I told you so.
no, I mean, no one's ever always right.
Exactly.
That's the thing is I think we all have our own perception of when we're right, but
Right.
even sometimes when we think we're right, we may not be right.
Of course. Of course.
That's awesome. Well, I know it's been a while. I want to make sure I get this episode wrapped up in a nice way because we've had such a lovely
Great
conversation.
conversation. Great
You and I could
conversation.
talk for like 4 hours, and
Oh
people
my
are like
God.
not going to listen to a 4 hour podcast, but I'm sure they've gotten an earful throughout what we talked about. I want to
Right.
get back to the who do you serve and how can people connect with you? So, if you can give a brief informational tip to people who might be interested after hearing you and what you talk about and how you work, if they're interested in working with you, what can you do to help people and how can they reach you? What's the best
Yeah.
way?
The best way, I mean, legit, the best way is to reach me, Anthony Obas. I'm on all social media platforms. You can reach me there, anthony.obas@gmail.com. I have my website, www.guidedbyobas.net. So if you go on the contact information box, fill it out, and then you can reach out to me there. I look to serve all creatives, right? And so also all small businesses, right? And again, the goal of us is to take what you're passionate about, take the product, take the service that we let, and transform it into a profitable, sustainable model that way it inspires people to constantly come by, but also inspires people to constantly like see value with the product that you serve. So yeah, that's a good way to wrap it up.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here and spending this hour with me. I feel so pleased that you took all the time out of your busy schedule to be here, but also just to share all this knowledge with our audience. So I'm super excited to have you, Anthony. Thanks for listening, podcast listeners. Thanks for watching, for those of you who are watching. And we'll be back with another episode. So take care and thank you for being here, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Love everybody. Peace.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. It's been awesome to interview today's guest, and I hope that you leave inspired to take action. If you're looking for any of the information we spoke about, it's probably down in the show notes. Make sure that you're checking them out and you're clicking on any of the links that seem exciting to you. If you are looking for a coach or a consultant to help you with your social impact or your sustainability, reach out to me via my website, hop on my email list, or jump into one of my programs. All of the links are below. So excited to have you as part of the collective. Make sure that you come back and join us for another episode next week.